You speak of other worlds emerging into the greater community. Can you speak of successes and failures which might have bearing on our situation?
There have been successes or we would not be here. In my case, as the speaker for our group, the world had already been greatly infiltrated before we realized the situation at hand. Our education was prompted by the arrival of a group such as ourselves, providing insight and information about our situation. We had alien resource traders in our world interacting with our government. Those who were in power at that time were persuaded that trade and commerce would be beneficial to us, for we were beginning to experience resource depletion. Though our race was united, unlike your own, we began to be wholly dependent upon the new technology and opportunities that were being presented to us. And yet as this occurred, there was a shift in the center of power. We were becoming the clients. The visitors were becoming the providers. As time went on, terms and restrictions were placed upon us, subtly at first. Our religious focus and beliefs were also influenced by the visitors, who showed interest in our spiritual values, but who wished to give us a new understanding, an understanding based upon the collective, based upon the cooperation of minds thinking alike in unison with each other. This was presented to our race as an expression of spirituality and achievement. Some were persuaded, and yet because we were well advised from our allies beyond our world, allies such as ourselves, we began to mount a resistance movement, and over time, were able to force the visitors to leave our world. Since that time, we have learned a great deal about the greater community. The trade that we maintain is very selective, with only a few other nations. We have been able to avoid the collectives, and that has preserved our freedom. And yet our success was difficult to achieve, for there were many of us who had to die in the face of this conflict. Ours is a story of success, but not without cost. There are others in our group who have experienced similar difficulties in their interaction with intervening powers in the greater community. And yet because we eventually learned to travel beyond our borders, we gained alliance with one another. We were able to learn what spirituality means in the greater community. And the unseen ones, who serve our world as well, helped us in this regard to make the great transition from isolation to greater community awareness. Yet there have been many failures that we are aware of. Cultures where the indigenous peoples had not established personal freedom, or had not tasted the fruits of cooperation, even though they were advancing technologically, did not have a foundation to establish their own independence in the universe. Their ability to resist the collectives was very limited. Induced by promises of greater power, greater technology and greater wealth, and induced by the seeming benefits of trade in the greater community, their center of power left their world. In the end, they became wholly dependent upon those who supplied them, and who gained control of their resources and their infrastructures. Surely you can imagine how this could be the case. Even within your own world, according to your history, you have seen smaller nations fall under the domination of greater ones. You can see this even today. Therefore, these ideas are not wholly foreign to you. In the greater community, as in your world, the strong will dominate the weak, if they can. This is a reality of life everywhere. And it is for this reason that we are encouraging your awareness and your preparation, in order that you may become strong, and your self-determination may grow. It may be a grave disappointment to many to understand, and to learn that freedom is rare in the universe. As nations become stronger and more technological, they require greater and greater uniformity and compliance amongst their peoples. As they bridge out into the greater community, and become involved in greater community affairs, the tolerance for individual expression diminishes to the point where large nations, that have wealth and power, are governed with a strictness and an exacting attitude that you would find abhorrent. Here you must learn that technological advancement and spiritual advancement are not the same, a lesson that humanity has yet to learn, and which you must learn if you are to exercise your natural wisdom in these matters. Your world is greatly valued. It is rich biologically. You are sitting on a prize that you must protect if you are to be its stewards and its beneficiaries. Consider the peoples in your world who have lost their freedom because they lived in a place considered valuable by others. It is now the whole human family that is so imperiled.
You speak about keeping knowledge alive. How many will it take to keep knowledge alive in the world?
We cannot give you a number, but it must be strong enough to generate a voice within your own cultures. If this message can only be received by a few, they will not have this voice or the strength. Here they must share their wisdom. It cannot be purely for their own edification. Many more must learn of this message, many more than can receive it today.
Is there a danger in presenting this message?
There is always a danger in presenting the truth, not only in your world, but elsewhere. People gain advantage from the circumstances as they currently exist. The visitors will offer advantage to those in power who can receive them, and who are not strong in knowledge. People become accustomed to these advantages and build their lives upon them. This makes them resistant, or even hostile to the presentation of truth, which calls for their responsibility in service to others, and which may threaten the basis of their wealth and achievements. This is why we are hidden, and do not walk in your world. Certainly the visitors would destroy us, if they could find us. But humanity may seek to destroy us as well, because of what we represent, because of the challenge and the new reality that we demonstrate. Not everyone is ready to receive the truth, even though it is greatly needed.
Can individuals who are strong with knowledge influence the visitors?
The chance of success here is very limited. You are dealing with a collective of beings who have been bred to be compliant, whose whole life and experience have been encompassed and engendered by a collective mentality. They do not think for themselves. For this reason, we do not feel that you can influence them. There are few amongst the human family who have the strength to do this, and even here the possibility for success would be very limited. So the answer must be no. For all practical purposes, you cannot win them over.
How are collectives different from a united humanity?
Collectives are made up of different races, and of those who are bred to serve those races. Many of the beings that are being encountered in the world are bred by collectives to be servants. Their genetic heritage has long been lost to them. They are bred to serve, as you breed animals to serve you. The human cooperation that we are promoting is a cooperation that preserves the self-determination of individuals, and provides a position of strength from which humanity can interact, not only with the collectives, but with others who will visit your shores in the future. A collective is based upon one belief, one set of principles and one authority. Its emphasis is complete allegiance to an idea or an ideal. Not only is this engendered in the education of your visitors, but in their genetic code as well. That is why they behave in the ways that they do. This is both their strength and their weakness. They have great strength in the mental environment, because their minds are united. But they are weak, because they cannot think for themselves. They cannot deal with complexities or adversity very successfully. A man or woman of knowledge would be incomprehensible to them. Humanity must unite to preserve its freedom, but this is a very different establishment from the creation of a collective. We call them collectives, because they are collectives of different races and nationalities. Collectives are not one race. Though there are many races in the greater community that are ruled by a dominant authority, a collective is an organization that spans beyond the allegiance of one race to its own world. Collectives can have great power. Yet because there are many collectives, they tend to compete with one another, which prevents any one of them from becoming dominant. Also, various nations in the greater community have long-standing disputes with one another, which are difficult to bridge. Perhaps they have competed for a long time for the same resources. Perhaps they compete with one another to sell the resources that they have. Yet a collective is a different matter. As we are saying here, it is not based upon one race and one world. They are the result of conquest and domination. That is why your visitors are comprised of different races of beings at different levels of authority and command.